Every NFL player, from Joe Burrow and Matt Stafford to the practice squad offensive linemen, have expectations entering each and every NFL season. Some of those expectations, like Burrow and Stafford, are understandably higher than others, and players that are first-round picks are expected to be franchise-changing players and are expected to play for the team that drafted them for the foreseeable future and for the team to have to not worry about that position for some time. Well, in today's video, we are going to be discussing a few NFL players from the 2020 NFL Draft class that will be entering make or break years in 2022. This class was highlighted by former national champions in Joe Burrow and Justin Jefferson from LSU, who each have made quite the impact at the NFL level in their first 2 years. And for Justin Jefferson and Joe Burrow, there are a few players that have made the headlines for all of the wrong reasons, like Henry Ruggs, Damon Arnette, and Isaiah Wilson. This honestly looks like one of the more memorable draft classes in recent memory for both good and bad, and there are a few former first-round picks that we're going to dive into in today's video, so without further ado, let's begin. And we are going to start today's video with Broncos receiver Jeudy. In his first 2 years, Jeudy has a total of 90 catches for just a little over 1,300 yards and a somewhat shocking 3 touchdowns. Situation, of course, matters for not only Jeudy, but for every NFL receiver, and his quarterback play in his first 2 years hasn't exactly been the best. The hope in Denver is that will change this offseason by bringing in not only one of the best quarterbacks over the past 2 or 3 years, but of all time in Aaron Rodgers, the multiple-time league MVP and former Super Bowl champion. When you look at the 2020 draft class 2 years later, there's obviously a few that stand out from the receiver standpoint. Of course, Justin Jefferson for his record-setting first 2 years and having over 3,000 receiving yards and being the all-time receiving leader through 2 years, until Jamar probably breaks it next year. And unfortunately for Eagles fans, of course, there's Jalen Reagor, who routinely gets memed and mocked on social media because he has to compete with Justin Jefferson given that he was picked directly before him, which isn't exactly fair to him, and that's kind of another conversation in itself. Then there's CeeDee Lamb of the Cowboys, who's had a productive first 2 years with Dallas and will be there for a while. And then, of course, Jeudy's former Alabama teammate, Henry Ruggs, for all the wrong reasons. So in the last 2 years, it's almost like Jeudy slipped through the cracks and people have forgotten about him, and playing in a market that's not an LA or New York, or being on a team that hasn't made the playoffs in over half a decade does that. Throw in Jeudy had a lot of drops in his rookie season and had a horrible catch rate of just 46%, and an injury-plagued second season in which he missed 6 games due to a high ankle sprain, and it's pretty easy to see why his stock is low entering 2022. I like Jeudy a lot and think he will bounce back, and one huge thing to remember here when discussing Jerry is he will be just 23 years old during the 2022 season. This is not a situation like when Calvin Ridley was a rookie, for example, where if Ridley did not produce at 24 years old as a rookie, the Falcons would have started sweating the decision to draft him before his rookie season even ended. Now, Jeudy has a string of not great luck in his NFL career, combined with not good quarterback play, and an injury that robbed him of nearly half of his second season, and to be fair, he did drop a lot of passes in 2020, so it's not entirely on this, injury luck or bad quarterback play luck, because Jeudy has to perform better in his own rights, but the fact of the matter is he will most certainly enter 2022 in a make or break season. From Denver to Detroit, we go to discuss a corner who has had an unfortunate first couple of years in the NFL, and that is Jeff Okudah of the Lions. When the 2020 draft process was happening, everyone knew it was going to go Burrow and Young 1-2, and there was a 99.9% confidence with Okudah at 3, whereas the other two, it was, they're going to happen. And naturally, when a corner is selected that high, there's going to be very lofty expectations, because while Jalen Ramsey was viewed as the best DB prospect in his class back in 2016, he wasn't even selected in the top 3, as there were 4 players selected before the Jags could get him at 5. And the expectations for Jeff were to more than likely struggle the first few weeks, or maybe even half of a season, and by season's end he would start to look like an above-average corner and be on his way, and use that as a stepping stone to what would hopefully equate to a Pro Bowl appearance in 2021. Well, Okudah struggled in all of year 1, and I'm sure some of that can be attributed to COVID with no preseason and everything in that general area, and he did get burnt a few times in the 2021 season opener against the 49ers, and unfortunately ruptured his Achilles tendon and only played 1 game in all of 2021. The situation for him is not favorable. Now there's going to be more in this, but he was a very high draft pick of a previous regime, and the Lions surely would not cut him this year or anything crazy like that, because Okudah, like Jeudy, will be just 23 years old at the start of the season, but his leash will be shorter than it was a year or even in his rookie season. The hope right now is that Okudah becomes the player the Lions drafted back in 2020, and that he becomes a starter next to teammate Amani Oruwariye, who very quietly had a great 2021 season. The thing to remember here, and I did say the situation is not favorable, and it's not favorable if he struggles out of the gate in 2022, but the thing to remember is Okudah has all the tools. He's 6'1", just over 200 pounds, has good speed, and has nearly 33-inch arms, and his arm length is in the 87th percentile on Mock Draftable, which is a very good site to compare players' height, weight, speed, arm length, and general combine numbers to their position. Okudah's raw physical numbers are very high for his position, and it's not like he was a flash in the pan at Ohio State that had a few good games or stepped up and had a 2 or 3 interception game in the college football playoff. He was drafted number 3 overall for a reason, and this wasn't the Lions are overdrafting the hell out of a player. No, the selection at the time was justified, and Okudah just needs some time to show why he was selected where he was. He has all the tools and should be a good player, but for a disappointing rookie season, which most corners have by the way, and after a season-ending injury in his second year, 2022 will definitely be a make or break year for Okudah. And if I was a gambling man, which I am, I do like to casually gamble admittedly, I would bet on Okudah bouncing back in a big way in 2022. Next is a big boy in the trenches, and it is Javon Kinlaw of the San Francisco 49ers. When Kinlaw was selected, the 49ers had originally acquired the 14th overall pick from the Indianapolis Colts for trading star defensive lineman DeForest Buckner, and when they selected Javon, everyone, myself included, was like, yep, they just got a younger, cheaper DeForest Buckner. But what was lost within that was the time it would naturally take Kinlaw to adjust to the NFL level and to get up to the level Buckner was playing at in 2019 when the 49ers made it to the Super Bowl. And while Buckner had a decent rookie season and an okay second season, it was his third year where he truly announced himself, and that's when it was like, okay, I'm here. We haven't seen Kinlaw do that quite yet, and what is important to note is he is now entering his third season. What also benefits Javon is being on a defense, and more specifically a defensive line, with an all-pro caliber player like Nick Bosa, and a veteran like Arik Armstead. Bosa was expected to take a leap in 2021 and did after coming off of a torn ACL, and there is legitimately no reason why Kinlaw can't do the same in 2022. And before there's even a thought of did he just say Kinlaw can become a 15-sack, 4 forced fumble, and 32 quarterback hit player the way Nick Bosa was in 2021. No, I did not say that, and what I mean is he can become a force from the interior defensive line position given the players he has around him, and a force does not mean Aaron Donald, 8-time first-team All-Pro, 3-time Defensive Player of the Year award position player either. But with Kinlaw and even Arik Armstead for that matter, you have an absolute beast on the outside who naturally draws attention and double teams, and what Kinlaw will have to do in year 3 is step up and be a good player. The player the 49ers drafted back in 2020. It's always hard to gauge defensive tackles statistically, but I would consider it a very successful year for Kinlaw if, coming off of a knee injury, he has 6 or 7 plus sacks, a forced fumble or 2 in 2022. And if Javon can be above average, which that would certainly be above average, not even necessarily a top 2 or 3 at his position, just above average, his play will naturally look like a player that's top 2 or 3 at his position due in large part to having a multiple-time Pro Bowl defensive end out wide in Nick Bosa. And make no mistake about it, Javon was drafted where he was for a reason, and I don't want this to sound like if he has a successful 2022 season, it'll only be because of Nick Bosa type ordeal, because that's not the case, and Javon's personal success is not dependent on Nick Bosa exclusively. It would just help him out the same way it would help out Jeudy out by having Aaron Rodgers throw him the football. One important thing to note is Javon will be 25 years old during the 2022 season, so his career and the long-term outlook will very much ride on his performance next year, more so than the other two players we discussed in today's video. I like Javon, and he had a hell of a draft story, and there's no concern regarding his work ethic and his natural talent. It's just about piecing the two together, and I truly believe that will happen for him next year. And with that being said, that's all I have for today's video. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel because it would truly mean the world. And until next time, let me know what you think in the comments, and please be safe and have a great day. Love you guys.